Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Liliane from Lily's Coaching and Consulting. All my life, I've been surrounded by women, my mother and my three sisters. I believe we can all help each other, inspire each other. Learning comes from different experiences, our own experiences, and those of the people we choose to connect with. So those connections can be instrumental in helping us removing our own limiting belief. So that's why I create a space where women can chat, share experiences, inspire each other, and maybe we might be able to inspire men as well. So today it's my great pleasure to have Amani with me. So Amani, thanks so much for joining this conversation. I think you're joining us from a very sunny place.
Yes, indeed. I am currently in Greece, in Athens. So yeah.
Fantastic. So maybe you could introduce yourself, because I know we have many people in common in our network,
Yeah,
but not everybody knows you. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And also thank you so much for having me. I am sure this conversation is going to be amazing, right? Right. So my name is Amani. I am a nutritional therapist and a functional medicine practitioner. I'll tell you a little bit more about what it is that I do, I guess, a little bit later. Yeah, I am originally from Belgium. And I think we know each other from Dublin, right? So I like to call myself a citizen of the world because I grew up in Belgium. I moved to Ireland after uni. Then, I started working in tech. That's how we know each other. And then I moved to London when I did my transition to nutritional therapy. And I'm currently in Athens on a workation. So it's a little bit confusing, right? But what I do every day. So I am really passionate about health and wellness. And as a nutritional therapist, I help my clients, alleviate their symptoms and reverse their chronic inflammatory conditions by getting to the root cause of these conditions, right? So this is my passion, and I'm really excited to tell you more about, what it is that I do. I guess we're going to have that time in the conversation, right?
No, definitely, and I'm so thrilled to have you because I'm passionate about health, wellness, fitness. So I was seeing your posts all the
Yeah.
time, and I was like, oh my God, I want to talk to her, like to learn from her. So this is episode 2 of A Woman a Path, and basically today the focus is from tech to health. So I'd love to know, like, how did you make the switch? What was the trigger? Tell us the story, like, because a lot of people are afraid, to
Yeah.
change
Oh my God.
because
And I've had,
because
yeah,
in tech, we are. I was in tech myself, as you know.
yeah,
Like the let's say the benefits are great, and
yeah.
you can be in a golden cage.
Yes.
Uh, so come on, tell us.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Like I always talk about the tech world as like a bubble, a golden bubble. So you called it the golden cage, right? It's a golden bubble because you've got access to loads of perks. And I must say it's a great experience because I am leveraging everything that I've learned in the tech world, to build my business, to grow my business. And I'll tell you more about it later. But when it comes to, the trigger, what really motivated me to start this business. So I've always been really, really passionate about health and wellness, right? To me, that's always been something that is really intriguing. And I was just like, wow, so some people can actually be healthy or heal themselves by using foods, right? Because for some reason, growing up, I mean, for obvious reasons, I guess, growing up, health was associated with medication, right? And I didn't really think about other ways we can heal our body and prevent the development of chronic inflammatory conditions. So I think the first trigger I would say was when I was diagnosed with asthma when I was 12, right? At the age of 12, I was told, well, you've got asthma, you're going to have to take tablets for the rest of your life. And I was just like, well, it is what it is, right? So I started taking my tablets, and I did take tablets for 12 years, from the age of 12 to 24. And what I observed, in those years, is that nothing really changed. Every time, every year, I was going to the doctor to do another test to see how my lungs were performing, and things were actually getting worse. And no one ever mentioned anything about my nutrition, my lifestyle. And I must be honest, it was terrible. So growing up in Belgium, I know it's going to sound very cliche, but I was having pain au chocolat and croissants almost every day for breakfast. Right? I know it's very cliche, but that's exactly what I was eating, not knowing exactly, not knowing that there was a connection between, what I eat, how we eat, what we eat, and my lungs in my case, right? So that was the first trigger, because I was just like towards the end, so around like the age of 20, I was just like, there has to be another way. I was like, this cannot be just it, like taking tablets for the rest of my life. And I actually, when I moved to Dublin, I watched this beautiful documentary called Crazy Sexy Cancer. Yeah, exactly. So this actress called Chris Carr, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, terminal cancer, and she was given a couple of months to live. And she was like, well, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to document my journey towards healing myself in the most natural way possible. So she traveled all across America, and she met some herbalists and then naturopathic doctors, blah, 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 blah. And she managed to heal herself, like she doesn't have cancer anymore. And I was just like, wow, this is super intriguing. So this got me thinking about other ways to start reversing my asthma, which I managed to do within a year. And I was just like, whoa, 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 this is too good. I cannot keep this to myself. But I had already started working, for tech companies. So it was kind of in the back of my mind, but I was just like, I might use this knowledge one day. And then a couple of years later, this is actually something that I posted on my LinkedIn profile this morning. I had an adverse reaction to a drug, right? And it was a really traumatizing event. And I don't know, I just heard this voice saying, like, you've got this knowledge, you absolutely need to put it out there because other people might, benefit from your knowledge. And that really was the big, well, so the first trigger was the asthma situation, and then watching the documentary. And then the second one was when I had this traumatizing event. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not messing around anymore. So I went back to school and started studying nutritional therapy. And then the rest is history, right?
That's fantastic. I love the story, and what comes to mind is that willingness to learn all the time.
Yes.
So maybe you want to say a few things around that.
Yeah, I think I've always been a very curious person. I growing up, I was always called. I was actually do you know Dora the Explorer? Dora the Explorer, like this cartoon. So this is like a young lady who's like always adventurous and trying new things and traveling around. I've always been super curious, and I always find a solution to every problem. That's who I am. So when you tell me something is impossible, I'm going to prove you wrong. So it can be a good thing, not so good thing sometimes, but this is why I've always been really eager to learn new things, because I don't see the world as limited, right? I think there's always a solution to whatever problem. Like we were created for that reason, to continue expanding, expanding, and expanding. So this is, I guess, just part of who I am, like my nature, right?
Amen to that. So, but when did you make the switch exactly? Was
Yeah.
there a trigger or?
Yeah, so it really got to a point where, so with everything that I had learned about nutrition, and I was already qualified. So when I was still working full time, but I had done like, it was a 4 years actually. Yeah, I studied for 4 years, and then I was fully qualified, but then I was still hesitant because I was like, it's very wild out there. I'm in this bubble. I'm very comfortable. Am I going to do it? Am I not? Blah, blah, blah. And one day I woke up and I was really like, oh my goodness, I cannot do this anymore. So I went to work and I was like almost crying. And then my manager, really kind person, she asked me like, okay, there's something going on with you. Let's go for a walk. And then she told me, she was like, look, I know that you have another business and you're doing really well. As in like another business. I started doing consultations towards the end of my time in the corporate world, right? But I wasn't doing it full time. And she was like, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? You've got this amazing network. You've got this amazing knowledge to share with the world. So worst case scenario, it doesn't work or you don't like it anymore, you can always come back, but you don't want to have any regrets. Picture yourself at 80 years old, you would want to have tried, so you want to remember that as well. And I was just like, yeah, what am I doing? Of course I'm going to go. And really this conversation helped me a lot to make that final decision of going all in.
And it's great to see a woman who helps another woman.
Exactly.
I love that when that happens. Cool. But changes can be very challenging. So I'm trying to picture yourself so you made the switch, you, let's say, resign, I suppose, from
Yes, I did. Yeah.
that company at the time.
Yeah.
So what happens? Because it's like, woohoo, now you just jumped in the water. So can you
Yes.
tell us about the first year, maybe? Because now you've been in business for 4 years.
For 4 years, indeed. Absolutely. I'm just going to put it out there where I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. It was tough. It was tough, not from a business point of view, though, from a mindset point of view. Because so when I left, I was just like, yes, let's do this. This is going to be exciting. And then so you've got a buildup of adrenaline and you're like super excited. But when you're on your own, like the first few weeks, I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because I was so used to working in a team, working with the manager telling me, not bossing me around, but like telling me what to do, telling me about deadlines. So I had more or less a structure and I knew what I was doing, right? But here I was, there I was like on my own trying to build a business from scratch and not really knowing what to prioritize, what to do, blah blah blah. So it was extremely stressful. And actually what happened the first few weeks was like I was like in a freeze mode. So I actually didn't do anything. I have to be totally honest, I ended up watching Netflix for 2 weeks straight because I was paralyzed. I had no idea what to do. And then what really, really helped me, and at that time, I had already moved to London, right? Because I moved from Dublin to London, knowing already that, oh, London is definitely a place where I can make new connections, potentially collaborate with other wellness practitioners, etc., etc. So what really got me out of that funk was connecting with other people. So my first year, I actually call it the yes year. I gave myself permission to say yes to everything because not necessarily something that I would always recommend because we're all different, but because I had no idea who I was as a wellness practitioner because I was for a very long time I was associated with that tech person, account manager, sales executive, etc., etc. But as a health and wellness practitioner, I had no idea who I was. I didn't know what I liked doing. So I said yes to everything. Yes to workshops. Yes to one-to-one consultations. Yes to blogging. Yes to conferences. And it was amazing because I really expanded my network and it allowed me to focus on a couple of things that I really liked. And I was just like, okay, so this is what I'm going to focus on because I really like doing it. And in my case, it was mostly one-to-one consultations and a couple of online programs at that time. So things have changed, because it's been 4 years. But initially, that's what I was really comfortable doing. So I really focused on that. So I think what I said about my mindset was I had to overcome loads of limiting beliefs, as you can imagine. First of all, as a woman, right? Like a woman starting their own business, her own business is like, oh my goodness, you've got all these cliches of she's not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. So I had to overcome that. And then also the imposter syndrome. Like I'm just one in a million. There's like loads of other health and wellness practitioners. I'm in a new city. Nobody knows me. Who's going to pick me, to work with them, right? So a lot of mindset work. Yeah, I did a lot of that. And it was really, really useful because I got to a point where I was like, yes, I can actually make it. And this is when, the business started growing.
Fantastic. And I remember when we were having a chat previously, you said to me, like, obviously, 4 years in business, it has not been always easy. You said that you described year one as the yes year. What about year 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah. Oh, amazing. So, what I started doing, and that's the beauty of having worked in sales. So on top of, saying yes to a lot of things, I started connecting with people because, in sales, it's all about, building a pipeline. So you need to talk to potential, buyers, so
Yes.
prospects, et cetera, et cetera. So the importance of building relationships and nurturing those relationships. So that's something that I did, and it took me a while because I think that's what we discussed as well. Like I literally got in touch with every single one of my previous clients, from the tech world, and also friends, anyone that I knew from my tech career, right? And I sent them an individual message saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing now, etc., etc." But in the first year, I did get a couple of clients, but it's literally everything solidified in the second and third year. So what I always say as a business owner is I'm not here for like a quick win. This is my legacy, so I'm not in a rush, which means that every conversation matters, even if it leads to a collaboration in like 5 years from now, or maybe like it leads to like getting a new client in 2 years from now. I value every single conversation, and in my opinion, when you have that approach, you're not so focused on like, oh, I want to make 10K in the next 3 months. It's brilliant. It's amazing if you can,
Yeah.
happy days. But that was not what I was really focused on. And this really helped me to then, reap the benefits of, whatever work I had done in the first year, but then in the second and in the third year. So the second and the third year were more about solidifying what I had started in year one, and yeah, nurturing and growing these relationships. So in terms of like getting new clients, I did not invest that much in marketing, actually not at all, because I do believe in organic growth. So my clients were then friends of friends of friends, or maybe family members from my clients on my client side, etc., etc. So it grew very organically. Yeah.
Now that's beautiful, and I think I really love the what you said about your mindset, because obviously both of us coming from having a sales background,
Yeah.
it's all about, hey, your pipeline, and by then you need to have closed that much revenue. And actually, I have to tell you something. One of the conversations we had made me reflect on what I was doing myself, and I kind
Oh,
of allowed myself to be like, year one is just going to be what it's going to be. Like I'm doing a lot, but and like you said, it's important that every single conversation matters,
yeah.
because then people can see you, the real you, and that's
Yeah,
who they want to work with.
exactly.
So if we are under pressure to make money, we probably are not authentic or
Mhm,
showing our true self. So I think
mhm.
it's and thanks for that advice, because I mean, you shared it, and for me it was like an advice for me. I took it,
Oh, brilliant.
and it's really it's been helping me. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're
Um,
welcome.
Something I'm curious about. So I don't really know, and you touch on your origins, you being from Belgium, but I
Yeah.
don't know about your family. But I know in my family where it's all about, hey, you have to have a master degree, you have to have a certain type of salary, you have to work in for a certain type of company. When I said that I was going to do my own thing, my mom almost cracked up completely. So I'm just curious to hear from your family. Like people were in my family told me that, okay, you're 45, you're having a crisis, things like that. So I'm trying to know what was
Yes.
your case. Uh,
Oh no, I totally hear you. It was actually hilarious because um I would say I come from a very traditional family, and it's all about um so you need to work hard to get your qualifications, and then you need to have the best job. So also maybe coming from an immigrant family, you know, it was like, okay, so we were given three choices. You go to med school, you go to law school, you go to business school. I mean, it's not that we were forced to, but it was kind of implied, right? It was like, okay, so if you really want to make it in this world, you need to have one of those jobs. So you need to go to the best schools. And I'm super grateful because my parents had the best intentions for sure. So I went to business school, I did my master's, blah blah blah, and then I got a really amazing job at a cool tech company, LinkedIn, um, and um, and yeah, and that was it really. And I was really like super successful year after year. And then one day I tell my parents, well, I'm actually going to quit and I'm going to start this wellness business. And I think first of all, my parents didn't really understand what it meant to be a nutritional therapist. And I understand. I mean, not everyone knows what it actually means. So they just thought, well, I'm just helping people eat better. That, I mean, that's just part of what I do. It's just a tiny bit, a tiny part of what I do. But for them, that was it. And they were like, well, why would you give up your amazing career? And I was making good money. I'm sure you as well, in sales, to start something from scratch, first of all. And we're not really sure, if it's going to help anyone and if it's going to help you to make money as well. So they were a little bit like, is this a hobby? you know? So they didn't take me seriously initially, even though they supported me for sure. But they were like, it's gonna pass. Maybe a couple of months later, she's gonna come back to like her senses and go back to a normal job. And then 5 years later, I'm still doing this thing. And now they fully support me. But it wasn't easy initially. They were still supporting me, but they didn't really understand what I was doing. So yeah, that was my experience.
That's super, super, yeah, super powerful. So I think this episode to me is going to be a bit different in the sense that the topic is too important not to dive into the topic, because I want everybody who listens to really understand the importance of gut health. So
Yeah.
maybe could you explain what is gut health and what's all around it, and we can take it from there.
Absolutely. So gut health has become this buzzword, right? Everyone is talking about gut health, but do we actually know what it is? So I look at the gut as a vast ecosystem, right? It's like the Amazon rainforest, right? And it's made up of trillions of bacteria, right? And they have multiple roles, right? So they help us digest our food. They also help us, to support our immune system because 70% of our immune system is located in our gut. They also help us feel better. We've all heard, I mean, I hope we all have heard about the gut brain connection, right? How our gut is connected to our brain, our emotions, and vice versa. So this is gut health. However, it goes even like beyond that in a sense that at the end of the day, our gut is part of our digestive system. So it's also digestion. It's not only the gut microbiome, it's all our digestive organs, which starts in the mouth. So it goes from the mouth all the way down to the last part of our colon, right? So it's a vast cluster of organs, right? And to me, it is the most important aspect of health because a lot of diseases start in the guts, you know? So, for example, when I look at my clients today, it's not only some people who have IBS, so irritable bowel syndrome. It can also be someone who has hypertension, someone who has asthma, like myself back in the days. It's when I really started healing my gut that my asthma symptoms went away. So, your gut is connected to all your organs. So, healing your gut or supporting your gut is, I would say, one of the most important things you could ever do. So yeah.
And how do you heal your gut?
So I think for me, when it comes to gut health, there's loads of information out there and can be very, very confusing. I've always been a huge fan of keeping things very simple and really nailing the foundations of health. So because these days, I don't know if you look on Instagram, on TikTok, or whatever, you've got like a superfood powder. Like there's loads of supplements out there to heal your gut. But for me, it boils down to a couple of things. So my approach when it comes to health is very holistic. So when it comes to your gut health, I personally recommend starting with things like hydration. So I know it's going to sound very basic, but hydration is super important because real hydration, so I talk about cellular hydration, is water with electrolytes. So all your magnesium, potassium, etc., etc. And these minerals support the contraction and the relaxation of your muscles, including your guts muscles. So to support good digestion, good hydration is important. Then when it comes to the gut microbiome, I do believe in, and this is something I recommend to absolutely everyone. Uh, don't even focus too much on probiotics. Start with fiber. Fiber is so important, and in particular, prebiotic fiber. Because prebiotic fiber feeds beneficial bacteria. All these bacteria in our guts, they need to eat every day, right? And what do they like? Prebiotic fiber. A couple of examples: oats, right? Seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, garlic, onions, leeks. All of these beautiful foods are full of fiber and the type of fiber that feeds our gut bacteria. So what I always say, because often clients will say, well, supporting your gut can be expensive. No, it doesn't have to be. If you really start with the foundations, then you won't need all the superfoods and the supplements. So we've got hydration, we've got fiber, and I'm also a huge fan of movement. It's so simple, but it's yet so essential. Movement doesn't mean going to a CrossFit class. It doesn't have to be intense. It can be just moving your body. It could be a massage. It could be going for a walk in the morning. It could be deep breathing. It really helps as well to move your body. So anyone can do it. So that's why I always challenge people. When I talk about movement, people think, oh, do I have to run a marathon? No, it doesn't mean that. So of course, we can continue talking about how to support your gut, but these three things are so important. So movement, fiber, and hydration.
Yeah, that's very like I'm delighted because I tick all those boxes, so I feel good about
Very good.
myself.
Very good. Congrats.
So question. So a lot of the time, I think we're not aware of what not to consume. I mean, I think it's impossible to be perfect all the time, but what to avoid maybe. And
Yeah.
what are the three foods or we should avoid as much as possible?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I know the list is long and sometimes it can be a bit like fear mongering, especially on social media. But when it comes to foods that we should avoid, generally speaking, I do recommend staying away from anything that is too processed. So the first step is go back to the basics, go buy some whole foods. So avoid anything that is packaged. And honestly, if you do that for a couple of weeks, you're going to notice a massive difference. Because the problem is in processed foods, first of all the fiber has been stripped out. So you end up with like food with empty calories, really. Like there's nothing, no nutrition. And then also additives have been added, maybe pesticides as well. And it gets your gut and your immune system confused because your body cannot recognize anything really because it looks like food but it's not food, so your body cannot really use it properly, so you don't get the benefits of actually eating. You should get energy from eating anything really, but if it's processed, there's no energy, there's nothing. So that's the first thing that I would recommend, and it's very easy because when you go to the supermarket, you've got all your fresh fruits and vegetables on one side, and then everything else is packaged. And what I usually say is when you see on the package that there's so many like really big claims like, oh, it supports I don't know, it reduces cholesterol, blah blah blah, all these things that are too loud, it's just usually an indication that you should leave that food on the shelf and go back to the whole food section, right? So staying away from processed foods. And then also one thing that is a killer, unfortunately, for the gut microbiome is sugar. But I'm talking about processed sugar. I'm not talking about naturally occurring sugars from fruits. I'm talking about processed sugars. So in your biscuits and all that stuff. But very often processed foods contain a lot of sugar. So it's kind of in the same category. Because sugar feeds the unfriendly bacteria. So then it disrupts your gut microbiome, and then you end up with, more bad bacteria than good bacteria, right? And maybe a third thing, it's not necessarily food, but it's a drink, it's alcohol. Not completely staying away from alcohol, but I mean, I don't know. You're in Dublin. I am in London. I mean, we know the culture, like drinking is unfortunately a problem, you know, in Ireland and in the UK. And for example, you could have the most incredible diets in the world, but if you consume a lot of alcohol on a regular basis and you don't keep it just occasional, like having a glass of wine here and there with dinner, but if you have it like every single day in huge quantities, it does exactly the same, unfortunately, to your gut microbiome. So it kind of destroys all your efforts. So for example, if you eat your fiber and you behave really well, let's say during the week, and then at the weekend you go binge drinking, it's kind of counterproductive, you know? So these are the
Definitely.
three things. Yeah.
No, fantastic. I'm trying to think of, yeah. So, okay, so a lot of people in your network are probably working still in the tech industry. I'm just curious, you know yourself, if you put yourself back in the days when you were working in tech, you're working towards your targets, you're sometimes end of the month, you can be very stressed. Sometimes people feel tired, low on energy, working at their desk, eating at their desk, maybe. I don't know. Any advice, like 3 tips you would give to somebody who's working, who's having a job with a lot of pressure and who's trying to stay healthy? I'm thinking account exec that needs to travel a lot, or sales managers, sales directors, they travel, they have meals, and then they mess up their diet after a trip. I remember those days for me. So what would you
Yeah,
say?
same. So what would I say? So yeah, a couple of things. What I have noticed, personally, I don't drink coffee, but I know a lot of people drink coffee, and it gives them energy, and I have nothing against coffee, but the first thing that I would recommend is to not have coffee on an empty stomach, right? First thing in the morning, you want to have your water first, because you've been dehydrated the whole night because you haven't drunk anything, right? So you wake up in the morning, you're dehydrated. Caffeine can be dehydrating. So if you start with coffee, you know, you're going to be even more dehydrated. So I would recommend starting with water and have your coffee after your breakfast or whatever. And then also it has an effect on your stress levels. So some people are more sensitive than others, but when you have coffee, I don't know, on an empty stomach, and you're naturally stressed, you're going to produce more cortisol, which is the stress hormone, right? So that's the first thing. So a coffee after breakfast. Another thing that I would recommend is to have what we call a blood sugar balancing breakfast. So I mean, you grew up in France, I grew up in Belgium. You want to stay away from anything that is too sugary in the morning. So, for example, you know, your cereals like sugary granola and all that stuff. It's not ideal for breakfast. So you really want to go for something ideally savory for breakfast. So your eggs, your tofu, your vegetables, that is a much better breakfast because it's going to help you to have energy throughout the day. It's slow releasing sugar because it's vegetables or carbs anyways, but complex carbs, right? And then I think the last thing that I would say is a kind of, no, I did not touch on that yet, but something that I used to do at LinkedIn. So after lunch, I would I would go for a walk, just a 10-minute walk. And this is incredible, first of all, to balance your blood sugar levels, because as you're walking, your muscles are using the sugar that you've just eaten, right? So it really helps to balance your blood sugar levels. And then also it gives you a bit of energy because movement is essential for life, right? Because especially, I know, as an account executive, sales manager, or if you have a desk job, you spend most of your time, sat, in front of your computer. So it's a really good idea to support your digestion. So to go for a walk to support your digestion and to give you that boost of energy, especially in the afternoon.
Great. Okay, you touched on the breakfast. Stay away
Yeah.
from certain type of breakfast, and most people don't know. They think granola is a healthy breakfast. Or what
Yeah.
about oats, like porridge? Is porridge a healthy breakfast?
Ooh, such a good question. So The answer is yes and no, and I'm going to explain. Don't worry, because it can be confusing. So, basically, oats are pure starch, and starches are basically just pure sugar. So, if you only have oats with milk or water, most people, not everyone, but most people will have like a blood sugar spike. So if you really love your oats, a couple of things that you want to do. So first of all, you want to go for thick oats. You know, you've got instant oats versus, you know, the really thick ones that take forever to cook, you know. So they're
Okay.
really thick, which means that they contain more fiber. The instant oats are prepped within 5 minutes, not even that, maybe 2 minutes, because most of the fiber has been removed. And if fiber has been removed, it means that more sugar is available because fiber acts like a buffer. A couple of things that you want to do as well, you want to add fats and maybe seeds and nuts to your porridge, because again, fiber and fats act like buffers, so they slow the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream. So if you like porridge, I would say have your porridge with maybe like 1 tablespoon of chia seeds or flax seeds, add a couple of nuts, maybe some blueberries, maybe some cinnamon as well. So you kind of make it more well, less sugary, and you reduce the glycemic load of the oats by adding a lot of really good stuff that are going to slow down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream. So this is why it's like it's yes and no. It really depends on what you add to your porridge.
No, that's perfect. Thanks so much.
No
Um,
worries.
and then can you tell us a bit about your clients? Okay, what are the greatest change you've helped to create?
Yeah.
And maybe what are the worst challenges some people have out there? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I will start with the challenges, because this is something that I struggled with myself, because I was like, I've got these amazing, when I started practicing, I've got these amazing tools for clients, and they are not getting the transformations that I know they can experience. So what is going on here? I think what I have observed, and this is why in my practice I've started adding more mindset and emotional health tools. Um, Very often there's a resistance to change, right? And I mean, I was there myself. You know, when I started my own journey, right, as a nutritional therapist, there was a lot of like limiting beliefs, a lot of resistance, really, because change is difficult. Change is scary because it's going from something that you know, even though it's uncomfortable, to something that you don't know, right? It's unknown, it's new, it's difficult. So not everyone is ready to change. So I had to work on. I supported my clients with their mindset, and one of my all-time favorite books, which helped me a lot to support my clients, is Atomic Habits by James Clear, that you probably know, or I don't know.
I, I heard of, but I never read it. It's on my list.
Brilliant. It is a brilliant book. And actually, this morning I had a consultation with a client who is also struggling, who was, because we're making progress, but who was struggling with, you know, changing, right? So what I always say, so one quote that I shared with him was consistency before intensity. So very often what happens is people want a transformation yesterday. They want to change everything at once. And this is not how it works, because your nervous system needs to be on board with the change, right? Otherwise, you're going to self-sabotage, because this is too much, too soon, too unfamiliar, right? So I had to take a step back and work on breaking down all the recommendations into tiny habits. And this is how I started working on programs rather than one-off consultations, right? I used to do one-off consultations, but we know now that you cannot change much within 1 or 2 consultations. You need to allow yourself to give yourself time. So I would say the mindset blocks and limiting beliefs were really, really challenging for my clients, and I had to find ways to help them with that. So breaking down their goals into tiny, tiny micro goals was really, really useful and helpful. And yeah, in terms of the transformation, I'm actually so happy that the transformations that my clients are having go way beyond the physical aspects. So for example, they have IBS, they come to me with symptoms of IBS, bloating, cramps, blah, blah, blah. And then 6 months later, not only they don't have their symptoms anymore, but they have started a new hobby because they have more energy. Maybe they have changed their jobs and they have started something completely different that they've always wanted to do. They wake up feeling happier. Maybe they left a toxic relationship, etc., etc. So I started seeing that the transformation was much more than just the symptoms. And oh my God, it's just, I love it. This is something that really, keeps me going really. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm thinking that's pretty much all the questions I had in mind
Yeah.
from a health perspective. I don't know if there is anything else you'd like to share with us today.
Mm,
You have a thing going on actually at the moment, I believe. You have some.
yes. Oh my God. I am. Oh, thank you very much for reminding me because there's always something going on, but something really exciting that I'm currently working on is a nutrition platform. So this is something that's been on my mind for a very long time now, a couple of years, but I never really it was in the back of my mind, but it was not my priority because I was focused on other things. And actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, but now is the right time to do it. So this is a nutrition platform that's really going to help people use the or leverage the healing power of foods, because one of my passions is to teach people how to support their health with nutrients from real foods. So for example, technically we don't need paracetamol or aspirin or whatever. You can use exactly, yeah, you can use turmeric, for example.
Yeah.
It has a natural anti-inflammatory properties, right? So I really want to help people with that. And also, the idea is to translate the science into practice because we know the science, we know so much about what we should do, but how do we make it work on a day-to-day basis? That's the idea, really. So I'm working on the content, I'm doing a bit of market research, and I'm going to interview you very soon, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's going to be launched if everything goes well at the end of the summer, so end of August, beginning of September. So
So
yeah.
I'm super curious. So what does that mean for me? Does that mean that then what will I see on your platform? What's
Yeah.
the goal? What's the mission of the platform? Educate people?
Yeah, so I would say actually the word, and I know it sounds very cliche because we all use this word, but empower people. Because one of my main goals as a practitioner when I work with someone is that they actually don't need me or anyone else anymore, after they've worked with me. And when it happens, I'm the happiest because when people know what to eat, when to eat, to have more energy, whatever their goals are, then my God, we become a totally different society. Because imagine having people who are full of energy, not 24/7, it's impossible, but more often than not, right? We would make better decisions. We would probably support each other more. We would not fight 24/7. We would be just generally a healthier population. So that's the idea. And we can do that with food. We don't always need medication.
Okay, so I will go on that platform and I would learn about the foods. Let's
Yes,
say
exactly.
if I have like arthritis and I need something to calm the pain, I will read something about turmeric and the properties, something
Yes,
like that.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So the idea really is to have like bite-sized content. So I don't want to overwhelm people with too much information because this is already the case out there. It's super practical. So it's going to be, we're going to have a different theme every month. And for example, if the theme is like inflammation, pain, you're going to have loads of resources on like how to alleviate your pain very quickly using the I don't know, herbs and spices, for example, such as turmeric.
Fantastic. Well,
Yay!
this is super inspiring. I hope you keep us updated with your
I will.
changes, progression, and
Yes.
really want to thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, it's
Uh,
my pleasure.
it's I think it's a topic that is critical to anyone, health, because without health there's nothing possible. So
Absolutely.
our health is our wealth, and we need to look after it as much as we can. Maybe a last question. Yeah, sorry.
Of course.
For women, okay? So I'm a woman, I'm 45, I'm going to be 46. Like a lot of women, I care about maybe not aging too fast. Is there any learning, anything related to the gut health that can help women age well?
Ooh, yeah. So what I would say, maybe two things. To age well, so especially for women, I often refer to hormonal health. And for women, we're talking mostly about our sex hormones, so estrogen and progesterone. And very often, women have imbalances or hormonal dysfunction, hormonal imbalances, right? And the main issue, in my experience at least, is excess estrogen, so too much estrogen compared to progesterone. And one superfood that I eat every single day, that every woman over the age of 35 should eat every single day, is flaxseed. I talk about it all day, every day. So flaxseed really helps to balance your hormones, and ideally you want to have 1 or 2 tablespoons per day, but for the I don't want to say for the rest of your life. Of course, there's other like amazing superfoods, but yes, if you can, this is what I'm planning to do, by the way, to eat flax seeds until the very last day of my life. So that's one superfood that I highly recommend consuming, and it has so many other benefits, such as cholesterol management, weight management, mental health as well. So flaxseed is one of those superfoods. The other thing that I would say, especially for women and aging well, is balancing your blood sugar levels. It is so important because too much sugar in the bloodstream is inflammatory. And what is inflammatory inside is reflected on the outside. So it doesn't really help to have like a glowing, supple skin. So
Yeah.
from that point of view, if we're really talking about beauty, for example, and aging well, managing your blood sugars is going to be super important.
That's fantastic. And what are chia seed similar to flax
Flaxseed.
seed?
Oh,
No, but
oh,
what about chia seed? Because
yeah.
that's what I consume every day, and I always hope that this is it a similar benefit than flax seeds
It would
or not
be
at all?
so it's not exactly the same, but chia seeds are absolutely brilliant as well. So if you have a preference for chia, yes, have your chia seeds every single day or alternate between chia and flax.
Yeah.
But all seeds are beautiful, but I have a preference for flax, but chia are great as well. So if you get into the habit of having seeds every single day as a woman, they all have health benefits, especially around hormones. So definitely a must.
Great. Thanks so much. I give you maybe the chance to close this conversation. Any book, anything you want to recommend, or any quote maybe you want to share, anything that you want to educate people on maybe
Mm.
gut
Yeah,
health.
absolutely. I mean, it's more of a mindset quote that I absolutely love because it really like helped me so much, especially when I was hesitating to launch something, to create something, to just do it. I may have mentioned it to you as well. It's start now, optimize later.
I love it.
I love it so much because we're always looking for perfection, which doesn't exist. But start now because there's never going to be the perfect moment to start something. So whether you're starting a business, whether you want to work on your health and you feel like, oh, I don't have time, start now with baby steps and then optimize later.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Amani. Thank you
Very
so much for the
welcome.
time, and speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.